are blessed to have Eric Diamond in the studio with us today. He was inducted, into the Hall of Fame in 2024 for the Western Swing Society out in California, as you can see here. Thank you for joining us tonight. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Pretty excited to help share your story and honored to have you reach out to do an interview. You can find out more about Eric Diamond at ericdiamondmusic.com. You started performing when you were 15 years old professionally?
Yes, ma'am. That's when I landed my first professional job, and that pretty much got me hooked.
What would you say inspired you to get into songwriting and music to get to that level? And how long were you doing it before you landed that job as a 15-year-old?
Well, honestly, I started singing in the choir, I believe, about the age of 10, I think in 4th grade. And I always liked to sing. And I grew up in a community, very small community in southern Colorado, where the #1 industry was horses and mules. And cowboys from around the West would come in to do seasonal work and to break horses in the spring. And we'd get cowboys from Nevada, Montana, Wyoming, South Dakota, North Dakota, Texas, Oklahoma, Arizona, New Mexico. So there were many big horse outfits. Thousands of horses they'd bring into the valley in the spring. And so I grew up around the cowboy culture, which for a kid, it was like growing up in a John Wayne movie, and I loved that. That's probably what attracted me most to country music, actually. And in my younger days, I was a horse wrangler, and I broke horses into my early 20s. And, on Friday and Saturday night, there wasn't much to do other than to go dance and hear the country bands, because there was 2 venues very close to the house that would have live country music, full 5-piece bands or 6-piece bands. And then there was 2 other venues that would have, duos and things of that nature. So there was an opportunity to get exposed to a lot of music. And I got opportunities at a very young age. I sang and made it to the state finals of the Jimmy Dean Country Showdown when I was 15 years old. And when I was 16, I made it to the state finals of the Charlie Daniels Country Showdown. And luckily, I got, like I said, my first professional job. I got a phone call. They knew I could sing, and they knew I had quite a large repertoire of songs. And so that's how it all began. And I don't know what inspired me other than, that I just kind of fell into it, and I loved it. I loved all things cowboy, all things Western, all things country. And that's where it all began, I guess.
So I'm at the sake of sounding naive. The Jimmy Dean Country Showdown, is that the Jimmy Dean sausage?
Yeah, if you don't know this, and you may not, because you may be much younger than I, but he was also quite a big country music star. And the sausage thing was long after his music success.
Well, I'm glad I asked. We got a little bit of history there.
Jimmy Dean had quite a few songs. Yeah, he had quite a few songs, and I'm not positive, but I believe he performed on the Grand Ole Opry, and he was certainly a household name in country music. Yeah.
So you have, I know that your song that you just released, your album that you released premiered on KSSL radio out of Lubbock and went pretty global. You are you from California originally?
No, I was born in the Rocky Mountains of northern New Mexico. My parents, by the time I was the age of 14, I guess, my folks owned a home in New Mexico and in Colorado. Both beautiful places, the areas where we were. Both were up in the mountains at 8,000 feet elevation. And I fell in love with Colorado. It's where I wanted to claim as home, which I did for 40 some years. We would spend part of the year in Colorado, part of the year in New Mexico. And then in 1983, I moved to Colorado full time and called it home ever since, until about 5 years ago or whenever the COVID began. And then I was actually planning on selling out and moving to Texas, where I purchased a home in the hill country of Texas, down in Kerrville, Texas. But the COVID kind of redirected my plans, and I ended up back in my hometown of Los Alamos, New Mexico. And that's where I currently reside. I still own the house in Texas, but I have it leased, and I love where I'm living. I drive to Texas every month because I pretty much work there every month, there in Oklahoma and occasionally Tennessee and Missouri. We had a band for 6 years. We had a band, the Rocky Mountain Playboys, and we toured an 11-state region. We had 13 national agents booking us. We went town to town, state to state, and in 6 years, we only had 3 weeks off, 3 weeks without a gig in a 6-year period. And that was back when I was in my 30s. And I actually came off the road. We were just about to go into Canada, and we had 2 cruise ship lines interested in us. And I was playing in Billings, Montana at the time, and I got a phone call, and my father's health had dropped off significantly. He was dying of cancer. So we finished up the week, and I explained everything to the band members. I called all the agents, said we'd fulfill what was on the calendar because we still had maybe a half dozen obligations. But I said, don't give us anything new, because I didn't know how long it was going to be, but I did know I was going to take care of my father, whether it was 3 weeks or 3 years, I was going to be there with him. So at that point, I thought my music career was over. And then 16 years ago, a friend took me to Turkey, Texas for the Bob Wills Day Festival, which I had always wanted to go to, but had never made it. And then life got busy, and I did 11 years on the road. And so life took me a different direction. So I went down to that festival just to have fun and take it all in. And people found out I was a singer. Next thing you know, I was on stage, and now I've gotten the opportunity to perform at that festival for 16 years in a row. Then a Hall of Fame fiddle player named Grady Smith invited myself and my steel guitar player, Larry Bressington. Most people know him as Chappie. He's in the Country Music Hall of Fame in Great Britain, and he's also in the Nebraska Country Music Hall of Fame. He got the 2 of us to join the Western Swing Society of the Southwest 11 years ago. And that was the best thing that ever happened to me in my entire life. And my comeback started slowly snowballing. And then in 2021, we had released an old album during the COVID. And originally it was on 17 radio stations. Then it grew to 550 radio stations in 10 days. And then quickly or shortly thereafter, we were being played on 8,000 radio stations. Then we doubled that number. And the last report I heard, we were on 25,000 radio stations around the globe. So that old album got me nominated for Album of the Year with the Academy of Western Artists. And it also got me nominated for Western Swing Male Vocalist of the Year. And the album didn't win, which I actually thought the album had a far better chance, but I won the Western Swing Male Vocalist of the Year, which was a surprise because Billy Mata was in there. He's one of my heroes, and he can do things that the rest of us can't do. He's got such a huge vocal range. And also Tommy Hooker was in the finals. And, he's a legend and been on television for the last 15 years. So, I knew all 5 of the finalists, but I didn't think I would win, and I ended up winning. And that, I thought that was the greatest moment of my life. I thought it'll never get better than this. And then 8 days later, I had 3 small Nashville record labels ready to sign me. And I committed to Clarksville Creative Sound mainly because of Kurt Ryle, because he is an amazing producer. And we produced the new album, which had even more success. We made it into People Magazine for coming in at number 10 for Traditional Country Music of the Year. I was up for 7 International Singer-Songwriter Awards last year and 2 this year. We were up for 5 awards with the Red Carpet Awards in the Netherlands. We got 2 nominations with the Ameripolitans. And the album was up for Album of the Year with 4 different music organizations: the International Western Music Association, the Red Carpet Awards, the Ameripolitans, and the ISSA, International Singer-Songwriters.
And then you said you actually are headed to Josie Music Awards this year, right?
Yeah, last year was amazing. Last year, I got inducted into the Western Swing Hall of Fame, which means more to me than anything. And I won Entertainer of the Year with a different entity, and I received the Heroes of Western Swing Award from Governor Abbott in Texas and the Cowtown Society of Western Music. But this year, I'm up for a Josie Award. I'm a top 10 finalist for Traditional Country Music Male Vocalist of the Year. So I'm excited. I used to live in Nashville, so it's always fun to return there. And I have not yet been in the new Grand Ole Opry building, so that's where they hold this event. I'm very much looking forward to that.
I'm going to have to say that I have not been in the new one either. I went to the Grand Ole Opry when I was 9, I think, 8 or 9, and I'm 43, so it has definitely been a while for me as well.
Yeah.
Tell us the story about this song we heard on the way in, Waylon, Willie, Haggard, and Jones.
So when we were putting the album together, we might have been halfway done or a little further than that, possibly. I can't quite remember. But Kurt Ryle, who owned half of the record label, and he was the producer, he said, I think you need a good waltz on this. And he goes, I want you to do something kind of like Red, Red Wine that Marty Stewart did, an up-tempo waltz. And so we came up with the song title, and then we started using lyrics, making the lyrics out of song titles from each and every one of those artists. And it really turned out well. It's been well received by radio, and the diehard traditionalists, country music traditionalists in Nashville definitely embraced it. And I'm very happy with the song. I actually wasn't crazy about putting a waltz on the album when the idea was first mentioned to me, but I'm so glad we did, because then it not only did it help, well, instead of only being exposed to Western swing fans, it definitely brought in a huge number of traditional country music fans as well. So it was a smart thing to do. I'm glad Kurt insisted on it, and I'm glad we did it.
Absolutely. Your album, you said, in 2023 was the most played swing album in the world.
Yes.
And then your song Oklahoma Bound is currently up for Music Video of the Year?
Yes, this year it's up for Western Swing Music Video of the Year with the Academy of Western Artists, which is held in Fort Worth, Texas. Red Stiegel is one of the head honchos. They've got a phenomenal professional staff there. I don't know everyone's name. The organization just recently changed hands. The gentleman that was in charge before passed away, and this new group took it over. And it's one of the better music organizations in the country. So I'm excited about going back to that. I hope the video does good. A gentleman named Todd Apel out of Iowa made several music videos for us, and that was one that he made. He did fantastic work. Yeah, we'll see how that turns out. But you can go to www.ericdiamondmusic.com, go to our YouTube channel. You can see all our music videos there. You can hear all 22 of our songs that we have out on radio now.
Well, we are going to give them a sneak peek of this song, Oklahoma Bound.
I spent a year one night in New York City. I tried to find a girl to dance with me, but I couldn't find a bar with country music. So I headed down to Nashville, Tennessee. I spent a lot of time down on Broadway.
That's definitely a dancing vibe. Lots of fun storytelling.
Oh, yeah. I wish you'd have let it play till the chorus, but it's a good song, absolutely.
I apologize for that. I said that I was going to let it play through the chorus, and I did not. Y'all are gonna have to find it. EricDiamondMusic.com. So much history and roots with this artist. Swing music is good for your soul. That's like like you said earlier before we got on here, that's the original country music.
Absolutely. Well, it's very happy music. It's the best dance music there is. And Western swing, a lot of people don't know the difference between Western swing and country music. Matter of fact, I didn't till I was about 18 or 19. But I knew I would always be like, my favorite songs would always be Western swing songs, not realizing that it was its own genre. And basically, Bob Wills created and invented it out in West Texas. And he traveled the country and he took, Texas fiddle music, and then he put in influences from the blues and from jazz and from the Louisiana Cajun and from south of the border mariachi, and he made it all one incredible, truly American genre of music, Western swing. And the chording in Western swing is all jazz. That's why another name you'll hear, Western swing is the official name, but another name you hear a lot is called cowboy jazz.
Right? That makes sense. I had done a bar rescue when I first got to Texas, and music was what helped me change that venue around. We had a band that was just asking if we had a place they could practice, and I was like, well, I'll pay you to practice on Friday nights because I got to do something to get this place hopping again,
Boy, that's great. That's great for the venue owner and the band. What a great deal.
Well, so I told them, I was like, here's the deal, though. You are practicing. So if someone else wants to come play, then they get to join your practice. And you're officially now a jam band. I was like, I don't care if a trumpet or a saxophone or a tuba or a trombone want to come and join in on your songs. We're doing it. And so they were a blues and rock style band that were very adamant about the fact that they were not going to play country music, but they did before I left. We had them playing some country songs, but it was so cool because they would take like songs by like Usher and stuff and turn it into a blues rock, and that's like an R&B song. So it was really cool how they would contrast different genres of music. And there were times where we had 12 different artists on stage that had never performed together ever in their life that were playing, music, and it sounded amazing.
Absolutely. When you got high-end players, they if you've got A players, and they can get up and play with anybody. Absolutely. And that's what's wonderful about Western swing. It's all those genres mixed together. Western swing is known for having the horn sections and 2 or 3 fiddle players, and of course steel guitar and lead guitar as well, and piano. I mean, big instrumentation. People that are like, I've had a few people in the last few years like, what exactly is Western swing? And a simple way I'll explain it to people is imagine if Hank Williams and Glenn Miller had a musical child, It's like big band swing meets Hank Williams and all combined together for this wonderful sound and the best dance music there is. Absolutely.
Right. And it's kind of like, I mean, music is our universal language. So with those different, it's kind of almost like you have different cultures kind of, mixed into
Absolutely.
there.
Absolutely.
It's probably what makes it so much more powerful than just, one format.
Absolutely. Well, and if you listen to Western swing music, or if you go see people at a Western swing show or the state fair where they're playing Western swing, you'll see heads bobbing and feet tapping. You can't sit still to it.
Okay, and so I do have to say that Shane Vandiver, if you've played in Wichita Falls, you probably know Shane in the nightlife.
Shane's a good friend of mine. Matter of fact, I see him 6 to 8, maybe 10 times a year. Matter of fact, we just talked the other day. We keep in touch through social media. He's a phenomenal singer, and a lot of people compare us. We've had a lot of people who come up and say, you guys sound a lot like Ray Price, which we are both huge Ray Price, fans. So that's one of the best compliments a singer could ever get, in my opinion. And Shane's a heck of a good guy. He works in law enforcement, and incredible singer and just a great human being.
He is absolutely a great guy. I've gone to his shows several times, and so it's always inspiring to me because, I'm that 43-year-old exhausted grandmother, and there's like 80-year-old women that aren't even stopping between songs for a drink. Like, they're nonstop dancing. If he's on stage, they're on stage. And
when you go to a Western Swing Festival, the people that usually they start at about 10 o'clock in the morning and they don't end till 11 o'clock. And at Bob Will's days, they go till 1 in the morning or beyond. And people will dance from 10 a.m. to midnight and beyond. And the dance floors are giant, as big as a NHL hockey rink or bigger. Some of them.
They're packed.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's really refreshing to see, because we have a lot of artists that they're like, oh, no one's coming to our shows or this or that. A lot of venues struggle, but that genre is not like, it's solid. Yeah. It's solid. Those people are up and moving. They're going to throw a fit if the band needs to take too long of a break because they want to be up.
Absolutely. That's your job, is to keep them dancing. And, if a small crowd at a Western swing venue for us is 200-300 people, and then certain venues can be as large as 2,000 or 3,000 people.
Well, and everything grows from the roots, and those people have a lot of roots. The people that support swing music, they true country.
Absolutely. Country. Also, another thing that's interesting about Western swing, if you look at the history of Western swing, it's always come and gone in cycles, up and down, up and down. But currently, Western swing is nearing the peak again. I had radio disc jockeys in Georgia and Michigan tell me Western swing is on the rise. And I thought, in Michigan? But I mean, that's phenomenal news for not only myself, but for all Western swing artists. But when I think Western swing, Michigan doesn't come to mind. So that's great news. It's very popular in England, Ireland, New Zealand, Australia, Germany, France, Italy, Ireland. Matter of fact, they want me to come perform at the biggest country music festival in Australia. And recently, 2 different entities are trying to put together an opportunity for me to go tour in Ireland. And, I'm willing to go anywhere to make a living. And I'm just glad that people are falling in love with Western swing music once again.
Music is one of the few things that is still like consistent in bringing people together, and it's a beautiful, beautiful thing to be a part of. We have pretty much covered most of the stuff. Tell us about your. I was reading your bio, and the name of the venue made me laugh. And when you were the floor manager at the dance hall and saloon where you were also the house entertainer. And I was wondering, like, did you kind of get when you started your own band, did you kind of play that off of the name of the venue that you were at? Like,
no. So what's funny is that dance hall was beautiful, state of the art. And its claim to fame was it was the biggest dance floor between Denver and Dallas. It was a big nightclub. Like it could hold 1,600 people probably. And it was called Hornies, but it was named after a big longhorn steer that was actually on property. When you walked up to the nightclub, they had a big pen, and there was this big Texas longhorn steer in the pen that was, belonged to the club owners, called Horny. And so the club was called Hornies for that reason. And it was a wonderful club. All the top touring road bands in the country came through there. And that's where I got to meet so many phenomenal musicians and bands. Also some big stars, like I saw Little Texas there. They were still fulfilling their club obligations before they but they had already been signed with a major label. I saw Neil McCoy there. I knew Neil McCoy back when he was working for $100 a man a night from the very back. He used to play in several clubs that I started playing in Farmington, New Mexico, and in Durango, Colorado. And three of his band members, Joe Thomas, Frank Anstead, and Randy Savage, all ended up working for me at one point in my career. So, that was a wonderful club. That was a great deal. What that really helped me do was build a Rolodex of phenomenal touring musicians so that when I put the Rocky Mountain Playboys together, which was a spin-off of the Texas Playboys, but because we did primarily Western swing, we also did a lot of traditional country music, and we had a handful of, not many, but we had a handful of rock and roll songs to pull out, when you're playing the clubs to give them keep everybody happy. But that's how I built a huge Rolodex. And then if players, like for instance, Scotty Frio, and Lickety Split, they were Arizona Band of the Year. They were an amazing band. Every one of their members was top notch. Well, Scotty moved to Nashville to try to get a major label deal. He ended up having a great career in gospel music, but the guitar player was Clayton Mitchell, and he and I had become good friends. He's been working for Kenny Chesney now for, 20 plus years, 22 years. He's been working for Kenny Chesney. So these are the kind of people I got to meet. And then I had all these different steel guitar players, drummers, bass players, guitar players, fiddle players to choose from. And so that's how I put the Rocky Mountain Playboys together. And then we toured extensively for 6 years under that name. And those were great years.
I was like, well, he was young. I want to hear this story behind this. I was like, it's probably a toad or something random. And it was a longhorn cow. Makes perfect sense. Shame on you, Cynthia.
But it's funny because Steve Marquardt, who owned the other half of the record label that I was with for a while, he said, "What got you into country music?" I said, "Well, honestly, cowgirls,
A lot of artists say that.
I don't have some great story about wanting to be some phenomenal musician. Luckily God blessed me with a tolerable voice and I got opportunities to sing. But when I started out young, it was pretty much for the cowgirls, and it beat stacking hay. You know what I mean?
Oh, hey, I did that. That was when you were 8, 9, 10 years old and your family farmed in the summer. That's what you was doing. Some grown man stuff. Didn't matter what you were.
Yeah.
It was funny that you mentioned Neil McCoy because I'm pretty sure that was the artist that my mother was adamant about going to see. There was a big snowstorm coming and we ended up having to take our babysitter home on a snowmobile. It was crazy.
I'll tell you this. For you and for all your listening audience, I haven't seen everybody, but I've seen a lot of country music in my life and a lot of the big stars. And to this day, the very best entertainer I've ever seen in my life was Neil McCoy. And, you know, he won CMA Entertainer of the Year, I think at least twice, but he is the most amazing live performer I've ever seen. He captivates his audience. You know, he's actually capable of singing opera. His range is through the roof. You know, he's like another Marty Robbins, just super talented. One of the nicest guys you could ever hope to meet. And if you ever get a chance to see him, you won't be disappointed. I promise you that.
Absolutely. I remember it, but I remember mostly was the crazy thought of having to take her home on a snowmobile. It was really that bad. We were surprised to have even made it home. I have one more song for us to check out before we head out the door. I know that we've been plugging your website, Eric Diamond Music. Y'all can go check out his music videos on his YouTube. All of those sites are listed on his site. So if you just ericdiamondmusic.com, find that, you will find everything else that you need, want, or should find. Booking, contact is on there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to www.ericdiamondmusic.com. You can follow us, like us on Facebook. We got a ton of stuff on social media. You can go to YouTube and type in Eric Diamond All of Me, and that will take you to not only the brand new or the newest album, but it will lead you into the previous album. And we are working on a third album. I'm not sure when we're going to be prepared to release that, but it's been in the works for a while. We're going to do a 10 or 12 song album, and we might only have 2 slots open for material. We've already got most of the album picked out and getting ready to work on that. Just looking for both my albums were recorded. My first album was recorded at United Artists Tower in Nashville with Gene Breeden being the producer. And then the last album was with Kurt Ryle, also down in Nashville. The studio's actually in Clarksville, right outside of Nashville. But this third album, we're looking for a studio, and I'm hoping to record in Texas with another great world-renowned producer. So I think that'll be great to have 3 different albums from 3 different producers. So far, the first 2 have had great success, and I think the third's going to be even better.
Heck yeah. Well, we look forward to hearing what you have up for us next and seeing where you place with the Josie music. I know it's always a great experience to just be a part of that and bump elbows with the other artists. We tell people all the time it's not about the destination, it's about the journey and the people you brush elbows with along the way.
Yeah, I'm excited to see old friends, meet new friends. I will get an opportunity to perform while I'm in Nashville and then go into the Josies and see where the chips fall. Absolutely.
Well, is there anything else you want to share about your music journey, or, you know, maybe a message that you have as to why you do music now before we head out? I'm going to have you tell the story about our next song before we leave, but.
Well, I think I do it because I love it. I also do it because there's not much else I'm good at this age. And I function out of desperate necessity to earn a living. One thing I will mention is in September, and I don't have the exact dates, and I apologize. I think it's around the 18th of the month, but it can easily be found on the Western Swing Society of the Southwest website. We will be performing 3 days in a row, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday at the Western Swing Society Music Festival in Pampa, Texas. So if you're in Southern Oklahoma, if you're in the West Texas area, or if you don't mind traveling, come to Pampa, Texas. It's a wonderful venue. I've been told it holds up to 5,000 people. Asleep at the Wheel plays there, which is one of my favorite bands and certainly one of my inspirations. And so come on out in September and dance and have a great time with us in Pampa, Texas.
Absolutely. That sounds like a lot of fun. September. Nobody on his fans list is singing that song, Wake Me Up When September Ends. Nobody. We're going to listen to Strike That Match, but I want to hear the story behind this song.
Well, so the title, it was a lady named Kathy Jewell, who's an incredible artist, and she owns probably the most powerful radio station in West Texas, KSSL, out of Lubbock. She came up with that song title, but hadn't written a song for it. And we had the green light to use it. Of course, we gave her a third of the credit, writer's credits, but she had the song title. And then Kurt Ryle and I sat down and just wrote. He and I wrote very well together. I mean, he's an amazing songwriter. I believe Kurt's written 18 #1 songs. I'm not positive of that, but I believe that's correct. I know for a fact he wrote a #1 for George Jones. He is an astronomical songwriter. And he said, I like writing with you because you've had so much life experience. Like, my life has been a country music song, I promise you that. So anyhow, you know, we took the title and we ran with it. And it's been a very popular song, and the video's been very popular. So I'm very happy and blessed that that's the case.
Absolutely. Well, I am excited to give them a sneak peek of it. I want to thank you for spending your time here with us tonight, and wish you the best on your journeys, and look forward to, you know, touching base with you when you release your new album and let the world know.
Absolutely. And like I said, I perform in Wichita Falls every year, at least once a year. So we'll get together, we'll have a coffee or whatever, and looking forward to seeing you. I really appreciate this opportunity. Thank you so very much.
Absolutely. And absolutely let me know before you come to town. As soon as you find out that date when you're coming next, we'll help you get the word out there. We appreciate you.
We will. I know for a fact we will be in Wichita Falls, Texas in March of next year.
That's my birthday month and our 1-year anniversary for opening the studio office in the downtown Big Blue.
Well, come celebrate your birthday with us.
That sounds good. This is Eric Diamond, y'all. Strike that match.
You say you've been unhappy for a long time. You don't feel that spark anymore. If you think the grass looks greener on the other side, then go ahead and walk right out that door. Strike that match, light that fire, and burn that bridge.